All right.
Is Rob Hersov going to run for president?
Please. Please go.
A lot of discussions today. It seems a lot of promises. We've heard once again from Mr. Ramaphosa, and it doesn't seem we're going to see any deliverance on those promises. Is that the case?
I thought if you were sitting inside the GNU cabinet, you would have applauded loudly. But if you are sitting at home, wherever you are, you would have heard more promises, a much longer speech. And actually, you would look at your reality and realize that things are getting harder. Cost of living is going up. Our children, we can congratulate them for passing last year, but in truth, they are passing to unemployment. That's the harsh reality. We can talk about a capable state, but if you don't have graduates to work in that capable state, you'll never achieve that. We can talk about financing of infrastructure, but if you don't have money for financing of infrastructure, you're simply not going to build that infrastructure. And lastly, you can talk about the review of local government, but if you don't deal with the corrupt elements that are sitting at local government, you can kick, scream, say all you like. There will be still potholes and all of that. So I'm not being negative. All I'm asking for the president to do is let's stop talking promises. Let's get to tangible plans, because then people can wake up next year and say, here is the plan. Here's what we're going to achieve. I'll either fund it with my tax, because all of us are invested in the project, or as a business, I can be able to look for business opportunities to fund particular projects.
What do you think of this idea of using taxpayer money to fund black-owned businesses? I think it's 100 million rand or billion. My math is terrible.
South Africa has a budget of 2.1 trillion rand. 22% of that is spent on debt services. Second function of that is the learning and culture function. And so in truth, 60% of that, as the president said, is on social wage. So if there's 1 rand that comes into the tax, 22 cents goes into debt, 60% of it goes into social wage, the rest goes to public service. I'm not sure where the 20 billion is coming from. So to me, it's yet another
promise.
Nice idea, but I don't see, show me the money.
Yeah. And as Bosa, how would you see solving this problem? If you were the president?
I would have cut the cabinet in half.
Okay.
I would have recalled our troops from the DRC and brought them back home.
Yeah.
I would have moved the pass rate from 30 to 50%. I would have gone for a 5% growth. And I would have announced, don't talk infrastructure in abstract. I would have said we're going to expand transport infrastructure. Why? It's important to build transport infrastructure because, like the Gautrain, if you move it from Sandton to Midrand, you are able to build towns around Midrand. So what if we announced a massive rail infrastructure project between Gauteng, Northwest, Mpumalanga, and the Free State? Suddenly, if you are an investor, you get behind that, you can put your own money because you'll see the tangible development and a return out of that. That's got to be the focus.
I know you're concerned about African countries like Zimbabwe. Do you see hope for Zimbabwe? Do you see hope for countries like Zimbabwe?
I don't, because I think we fail at the basic task of the ANC's got a strong relationship with ZANU-PF.
Yeah.
And when elections are rigged and our president attends them, he legitimizes dictators. When elections are free and fair, like in Botswana, he doesn't attend them because the ANC does not like free and fair elections in Africa because they fear it for themselves here. That's what we saw in Mozambique, as an example. I think what we need to do is, if you talk about human rights as a foreign policy, as the president spoke today, well, human rights begin when you stop having dictators, I tell you. Otherwise, those same dictators will eat you, as Paul Kagame is beginning to do to President Ramaphosa.
Yeah. And do you think he's going to win? In a fight like that, do you think Mr. Kagame will win?
Withdraw our troops, bring them back home. It doesn't matter what Kagame does.
Okay. Anything else you want to leave our viewers with?
If we're going to build a shared South Africa, let's be ambitious. Let's show people we've got a bold plan. In the absence of that, I think as South Africans, we owe it to ourselves to, when we think about coalitions, as the GNU is, we need to think about pre-coalitions so that parties can come together. And when those parties come together, we can know what their plan is, so that when we vote for that party, knowing what it will deliver, rather than waiting after the GNU and being surprised every year.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mmusi.